welcome back. I'm Roxanne at the Globalist Denier. I'm joined today by allegedly Dave, and we are going to be delving into something that's going to be new to my channel. I'm going to call this the pursuit of truth with, and it just so happens to be with allegedly Dave today. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing fabulously, thanks.
Oh, good, good. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was awesome being out with you in Trafalgar Square the other day. I had a great day. Thank you so much for coming up to London and spending the time doing that. I massively got a lot out of it. The amount of conversations that happened, the amount of people, the traffic that saw the banners, that just absorbed it and didn't even interact with us. There was a lot of interest either way. And I feel that it was a really conducive time spent out on road. I will say this, I was a bit doubtful in the sense of I thought we were going to have a much more productive day at Speaker's Corner. And before I got there, I was like, why would I be going anywhere else other than Speaker's Corner today? But after about an hour of being there and seeing the lack of trolls that we were dealing with, I was like, we might actually have a more productive day here today than we would have had at Speaker's Corner. That's not to say that Speaker's Corner is null and void. I'm going to still do that every month. But I thought, the more the better, the more of the Speaker's Corner, the better. And I feel like Speaker's Corner might just be like an on the street version of an online debate, like you've had on various debate shows. Those kind of troll mentality people, if we're going to get them, they're going to be at Speaker's Corner. It's like they're armed and ready for us coming.
Yeah, but I think it's in my mind it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other, really, because at Speaker's Corner you get the volume of people. Yes, you get the trolls. You still get a lot of people going past you, wanting to have a conversation, because that's what they're there for, really.
Yeah, it's like they've arrived there to have these conversations. Yeah.
Right, but in Trafalgar Square you've got tourists. Many of them not English, and a lot of them had trouble with the English language. So yeah, I mean, yes, we've got a better quality of people as such, but we've got less volume of them.
So that's why I feel like it still needs to be done. I feel like until the conversation has in some way, shape or form become socially accepted, Speaker's Corner is needed. And that's really what struck me as soon as I came into the online community, was that if there isn't a perpetual argument going on at Speaker's Corner, there needs to be. And if they have been there, it's not going to be a one-hit wonder. It needs to carry on, because that's what people want. They want the problem to go away, people to go back to sleep, and everyone to just go back to their normal lives and stop questioning all these things that we're taught as fact. And I will say it again, because I think it is very poignant to say this. If we're moving into a time, society-wise, where we're not allowed to question the things that we've been taught as facts, then I feel that in the long run, that's a dangerous place to be in. And I will use the word dangerous because it's authoritative. It's where this has been taught to you as fact. How dare you question it? How dare you have the audacity to go against the factual things that we've been taught? And that's the thing,
We are already in that world.
Yeah, we are.
I actually, somebody sent me a Radio 4 show that was on about conspiracy theories, and all they did was roll out the talking heads to say how deluded and crazy and we're in the post-truth age and all this stuff, and there's now legislation coming in about people not going along with the official narrative. I mean,
correct.
We're there now. It's
correct.
It's all well already,
Yeah. Well, in my mind, if you're out there speaking the truth, it's the new hate speech. Any type of stuff that's factually true is deemed by the common narrative as hate speech. You're speaking out against things.
And I think we shouldn't be afraid of doing this.
Correct.
You know what? This is going to sound a bit too far, perhaps, but we shouldn't be even afraid of dying. We're all going to die. All of us. We're all going to die.
Yeah.
It can happen, 2 minutes from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. I'd rather die. And saying, no, I'm not putting up with this, rather than like dying in my bed at 80 years old, having not said anything.
Yeah. So, not going quietly into the night. That's it for me. I'm not doing that. I'm not just going to sit in my back cave and not do anything about it. I can't. That's probably where I'm at now, and that's why I do everything that I do, because I can't shut up about it, because I know if I shut up about it, I'm no better than the next person that's gone, well, it's not really my fight, it's not really my argument. If I'm alive and breathing and I'm exhaling and inhaling, it's my argument. I've said this many times before. There's been times that I've literally left Speaker's Corner, gone home, woken up the Monday morning, back to the organ grinder, back to the system I have to live in. And I have questioned in the past, is this my fight? Is this my argument? Isn't this someone else's job? Why am I doing this? I get it from my friends. What are you doing this for? Why are you so passionately involved? What are you getting out of this? That's the tone of voice they say it to me in as well. What is wrong with you? What do you mean? There's something wrong with me because I'm passionate about this and I don't want to get a gym membership for 60 quid and go gym 3 times a week and stand in a room full of sweaty people and say I'm achieving in life because I'm standing on a running machine. I feel there's no difference. If you're going to spend 6 hours a week in the gym, what's wrong with me spending 3 hours out on the street having conversations with people? But, socially, I'm not accepted for doing that. But I will be accepted if I get a David Lloyd membership for 60 quid.
Absolutely. But, we've given away our responsibility for raising our children, for our health, for every aspect of our lives, including bravery and being a hero, because we watch TV and see all these pretend people pretending to be heroic and fighting our fights for us.
Correct. False idols, as far as I'm concerned. We're full of false idols, and I feel that the Earth, the globe's one of them. In fact, no, I feel the globe is the main false idol. Forget the Met Gala, forget the Oscars, forget all of that, because people don't get triggered when you want to take one of those celebrities away from them. They don't get that triggered. I've never seen people lose their SH1T because you tell them that the celebrities in the past that people have gone, that person's not what you think. They're actually addicted to A-class, or they've been doing this or that. Everyone kind of goes, oh, it's been a bit of a letdown. But you take that false idolship of the ball away from some people, wow, it's like World War III.
Oh, saying that, last night I was at an energy meeting and the topic of climate change came up. So I just unloaded with, Aurelia Pesci and the Club of Rome and Al Gore and all this stuff. And this guy almost stood up. He was like angry. He wanted to fight me. Just flat earth, because I'm a climate change denier, So yes, it was.
I tell you what, I'm not against things that we've done, like Chernobyl. Will we really ever know the extent of the damage that was done at Chernobyl? Go for it.
Nothing happened at Chernobyl.
See, this is something I haven't looked into, but I am spouting what I was told. I remember my dad going off about it, and back in the 80s. I was about 6 or 7 at the time.
No, I believed it too. I mean, it was a thing at the time.
So what were the people dying of, and why are they having such crazy birth defects?
What happened to me was I was doing a radio show years ago, and after the show, a whole group of us would get together and have a chat. And one of them was a guy in America. His name was Shaziz, and he had just come back from Hiroshima, and I was like, "What? Isn't that a wasteland?" And he said, "No, it's a beautiful city." I said, "What about the radiation?" And he said, "There's no radiation there." I was like, "Huh." So I started looking around, and I found a video called "The Nuclear Scare Scam." There's a guy by the name of Aiden Windsor, and this guy was a nuclear scientist, at the beginning of the nuclear age, essentially, and he designed a lot of the nuclear reactors. So he was telling how in the early days he would walk around with plutonium in his pockets. He'd swim in the containment pools. He would in his show he would eat uranium.
Are you serious?
Yeah, go and find it. Nuclear scare scam.
Because they literally make out like if you was to touch one of them like that, like within the hour you're a goner.
No, he was saying that he had 2 plutonium rods. As long as he kept them apart, They were safe, so you could put one in each pocket and walk around. But
Wow.
as you bring them together, you get a massive blue spark, yeah, because they're a power source. So
Right.
all this nuclear waste isn't actually nuclear waste; it's actually a power source, according to him. But he was saying that what happened was that one day all these officials started turning up, and they gave them these dosimeter badges to say
Hmm.
if they had a safe level of radiation exposure. And they were looking at each other going, what do you mean safe level? We've been here for years, interacting with this stuff, and there is no safe,
There
no.
isn't any, there isn't any ratio for safe and dangerous. It's just all safe as far as they were
Right.
concerned. Yeah.
And he said anybody who started to question it got fired. So they all started walking around with these dosimeter things, and all this health and safety came in, and all that. But they were saying, well, this is rubbish because you know. So after watching that, I started looking into Chernobyl, and it turns out that in Chernobyl, all the wildlife has flourished only because there's no people there anymore. So the wolves have gone back to Chernobyl. All the bears have come back. All the wildlife is now flourishing because there's no people. But now, step back a second. There are people. There are some women, old women in their 90s, who never left the hot zone because they're saying, oh, we're not moving. So they stayed in the contaminated zone.
Right.
Nothing happened. And when you look into it, you find that only 17 people actually died. And the circumstances of the death are a bit suspicious. All the thousands of people who had apparently radiation poisoning and sickness, yeah, they got mysteriously healed. Yes, you go and look at it, and you'll find only 17 people apparently died, and it's a bit murky about exactly what they died of.
See, so you'll go down these avenues of investigation, and you'll find that they'll just lead it to dead ends.
What we're talking about, the people in charge of this world have two. This is from the Bible. Yeah, they've been given two blessings, right? The blessings are warfare and deception. Yeah, their forefather, their patriarch, was described as a cunning hunter. So as a hunter, you have to be skilled in the art of deception, because if you're hunting bear or I don't know, a moose, you might make
Right,
a
right.
call that sounds like a moose, and you
Yeah.
might, but you'll deceive. So
Hmm.
what they've done is to instill fear into whole generations of people with this idea of nuclear bombs. They don't exist.
No.
Hiroshima was destroyed by firebombing because the whole place was made of paper, for God's sake.
Wow. You see, and this perfectly links to what I want to talk to you about today, because it seems that even in the conversations I'm having at Speaker's Corner, there's a lot of people that are clued up to his story of things. As we're all discovering, the history of things is always written by the victor. And so what we're taught is often, what I'm seeing to find in my pursuit of truth, is that it's far from, so far removed from the truth. You really do need to take the pill with some kind of water, because it will get stuck in your throat and you'll find yourself tossing and turning. It's like when I let go of space, I thought that was the biggest thing I was going to have to let go of in order to carry on with my pursuit of truth. When I started to kind of peek in and delve underneath and go, actually, what is really going on there? I very quickly realized, oh my gosh, no, they didn't. They didn't do that, did they? What? And they've packaged it up as that. Henceforth, why I'm here speaking to you now, because I've spoken to you a couple of times about it. Maybe I have done online, but I know I've definitely I've got questions. I've got questions, and I know that you've done a lot of research into this, and I feel that I can only but assist my pursuit of truth in asking questions, and I feel that that's how we all grow. If we all ask questions of each other, and we do know the answer, and I don't mean we know the answer as in I'm right and you're wrong, as in, no, I've looked into that and apparently that happened, and apparently, you know, if we can all do that and share the research that we've all independently looked into, not as maybe the authority on it, but just, have you got notes? I've got notes. Let's compare them. What have you looked at? This is what I've looked at. That's it. Yeah. That's exactly where I'm coming from. And I feel like we, the people, this is how we're going to grow and get stronger, because the people are many, the elites aren't. And if we can clue the people up, we, as in we, the people, I'm having to say this because a lot of people get triggered by the we word. I'm not trying to speak for anybody. I'm trying to speak on behalf of human beings. If human beings that can walk and talk and understand English can all start communicating with each other about what we've looked at, we might become more enlightened as human beings instead of staying so shut off. I would strongly suggest not to just isolate yourself within your family and talk to your family, because I've found that family are most judgmental. And if you're talking to family that are closed off to things, that don't look at things, you're not going to grow as a person until you start reaching out there and trying to have conversations with other people. So I'm hoping that you in the chat room get something from this, as I know I will. And I'd really love, Dave, to delve into what you've looked at regarding the Renaissance in comparison to what we've been taught. Because I feel it comes part and parcel in a lot of the lies to do with religion as well. And they've just kind of bunged it all in there and done a little job lot with it all. And everyone's just fine with it. No one's even, like the ball, everyone's just taking it as a given.
Right. Well, just to underline what you were just saying, we have been given one particular version of the truth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And literally all these apparent sources all funnel down to one narrative that we've been presented as, and it's been called history.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been told, and that's what we've been expected to accept.
Mm-hmm.
As you're saying, this process of, you know, social media and us being able to connect in this many to many, one to many type scenario that we're in. Now we can share information and put together the little pieces that we find to actually piece together the real truth.
That's it.
So yeah, that's the power of this, and this is why it's exciting. I mean, this is the time of the apocalypse, the great revealing of truth.
Yeah.
And this is the methodology of it, you know.
I find it funny how next year's 2020 and they say 2020 vision. That's when you see fully, right? I've that's like my own little private joke there. I just feel like, what are the coincidences of that? Major time of awakening, and we just so happen to be coming to 2020 next year.
Right. Well, so the about the Renaissance. Now, this is a tricky topic, because many people will just look at it as a race thing, a black white thing. Yeah. I
would implore everybody that's listening to this to use the 4:1 ratio right now. We've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 output. If you're finding any of this a little bit too difficult to swallow, then I would implore any of you to slow down, take the time to look into this for yourself. Don't take Dave's word for it. It's just, this information's there if you look for it, like Dave has.
Yeah, so people are going to be quick to jump on this idea. It's about race. Race is something that was created. Yeah, this is about nation and bloodline. One nation happens to be predominantly one color, but it's not exclusive one color, and same on both sides. Yeah. So this story basically goes back. It goes back to the Bible. It's a war between 2 brothers. Yeah, Jacob and Esau. The whole story of the Bible. I shouldn't use that word, Bible.
No worries. We're confined with the language we use as well. And this is another thing that we are all realizing. Since our conscious has been expanded, where we've done research, we're still confined with the language that we had when we were asleep to try and convey these new things. It's insane. Yep. I'm the same with you on that one.
So the whole story of the Old Testament, which goes from beginning to end, is the story of one bloodline, following it from Adam all the way to the end. Okay, Adam was supposed to be immortal, right? Originally, the idea of Adam was that he was going to be the immortal governor of this world. Okay, he was given a helpmate, yeah, Eve, because it was like, well, it's not good for him to be alone. Yeah, let's give him a companion. But they weren't meant to have children. They were both meant to be immortal.
Right.
Okay? But the you know, the forces against it basically stepped in and changed that. So I'm just paraphrasing here. You know, Plan B was the governorship were going to go to his children. Okay, his offspring. But it's literally a war between the most high's seed and the other fella's seed, and they're sort of vying for control. So you can follow. Okay, okay. So what happened was this: you follow the Bible, you follow the Old Testament, all the way to Jacob and Esau, two brothers, but they were two different nations, two different types of people.
Okay.
One of them was had the DNA of the fallen angels.
Right.
So was wicked, was cunning, the cunning hunter. Yeah, he was blessed with warfare and this propensity for deception. Okay, and the point is that this bloodline, if you follow it through, would inherit the earth. Okay, right. There's a promise to inherit the dominion, the control. And when I say dominion, I don't mean the iron fist. I own this. I'm gonna. No, it's like the stewardship. You know,
right.
Look after the earth. You know, that was the promise. Okay, so when it got to Esau and Jacob, it basically Esau was born first. So additionally, Esau would get the inheritance.
Right. Yeah.
But Jacob had the bloodline. Jacob had the pure bloodline. So Jacob essentially ended up getting the inheritance and the birthright. Esau believed that he was chipped. So there's a perpetual hatred between Esau's line and Jacob's line.
Right.
Okay. So I'm just setting you up for this. Okay.
Yep. Yep. No, I'm following you and I'm taking notes as well. So I'm on it. If I'm looking down at any point for the chat room and everyone else, I'm not paying attention. I just have to briefly look away to see my pens on the actual paper as I'm taking notes, as I'm writing without looking. So, carry on.
Sorry about it. Yeah. So I mean, when you actually read the Old Testament and kind of get what it's trying to say, it reads more like a Lord of the Rings story. You know, it reads like it's like, it's exciting actually.
Yeah.
It's really,
you know, I've heard a few people relate to it like that as well.
Book of Maccabees, and I was like, yeah, I got to Maccabees. It was like it was a page turner. I was like on the edge of my seat. Anyway, so you can follow where Esau went to. He was given a place called Mount Seir, which is in modern day Petra in Jordan. Okay, now I don't know if you've seen the city that was carved into the rock in Petra. I don't know if you've seen that.
Do you know what? I do think I have looked at this at some point. The city is the city of Petra.
Yeah,
you're talking about. Yes, I do think I have seen that.
It's a huge city that's carved into.
Is it like megalithic type of stones? Yeah. And it doesn't look like it. Right. I don't even know how that. Yeah.
Right. Now, if you look at this city, you'll see it's vaguely familiar. Yeah, it's very familiar actually, because the same architecture went along with these people. So not only the same architecture, but the same symbol. They carried around their symbol with them. So in Petra, you'll see these, you know, the familiar Roman-looking columns, and the kind of Roman-looking architecture, Roman and Greek-looking architecture. Now, there's a very special type of column called a Corinthian column. Okay, so it's like at the top of the column, it looks like flowers, or you know, flowers coming out. And that's the top of the column. Okay. So their symbol was the eagle. Okay,
Right.
so you can follow that type of column and the eagle to now I know it went to Egypt, but I haven't collected enough information there, but definitely to Babylon and then to Greece.
This is so random, but you know, the National Audit Office in London has got all the big columns outside and a massive gold eagle.
I was getting to that. I was getting to
As
that.
soon as you said eagle, I only went past that the other day coming back from Trafalgar Square, and I remember sitting in the back of Jason's car going, that eagle, this eagle on the top of this building is definitely like the length of my whole house. It's massive, massive.
Yeah.
Eagle. Wow.
So you can follow that eagle to Babylon, to Greece, to Rome, yeah, to Germany.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes. Yes.
To England.
Yeah.
Right. And again with this same architecture that goes all the way through.
Yeah.
Now in England it was a special case because in England Judah was here, the tribe of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, the Stuart kings, you know, King James and King Charles and all that, they were in control of the British Isles then. Saying the Irish were black Hebrew Israelites, so were the Scots, so were mixed tribes in around England, or what's called Britain, and Wales. Welsh were black people as well. Okay, now when the eagle got to England, you'll see that they combined it with the lion, so you see the griffin around. That's symbolic with the attempt to mix, you know, the eagle mixing with Judah. So then that eagle went to America.
What timeline are we talking around? Is this?
We're literally talking pretty much the history of the last 4,000 years or so. Okay. Well, I was getting to the fact the eagle went to America.
Yes.
Symbolically, it went further on than America. What was the first words from the moon?
The eagle has landed.
Yes, it was. It's no accident. It's no accident. In the Old Testament, it says, "Though you set thy nest among the stars." Talks about the eagle and says, "You set your nest amongst the stars."
Okay. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control, both auto, descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 413 is in. We copy you down, Eagle. Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
They don't half mug us off, don't they, Dave? They mug us off differently.
No accident. None of this naming convention is an accident.
I feel that symbolism will be the deep state's downfall in the long run. I feel that their symbolism will be the thing that catches the deep state out, the dark forces, if you will call them that. But you know, the eagle has landed.
Well, this is you're right about the symbolism, and it is their downfall because it's something they can't get away from.
No, it's there now. It's the evidence. And like you said, they've tried to get rid of it at certain points. They've tried to erase things, and I think we're living even through that now. We're living through modern day things being erased right in front of our eyes.
Well, in America, they're trying to erase the idea of slavery. They're trying to say that the kids are being taught in school that the Africans actually went to America for jobs, and they were like doing servants and stuff like that. You know, trying to make slavery all nicey. Yeah.
Well, I know this might offend a few people, but I feel like in 200-300 years from now, they're going to try and make out that we weren't slaves. And what I mean by that is, I don't think slavery finished for a start. I do feel that at one point they realised, if that was the case, because I don't have any first-hand experience, but if this was the case, I feel that at one point they said, look, this whole treating people and making them live in squalor and beating them and kicking the shit out of them, that's not really going to work long term. We're going to need them to have some perks. We're going to need them to we're going to need them to think they're winning, like that they're doing good. And I feel that we went from involuntary slavery to voluntary slavery. I feel like it's a choice now. I feel like it's a choice. And for most people, it's an unconscious choice. You don't realize you've made a choice to submit to the system, but you don't have a watcher standing over you. You have the clock. They're just going to get penalized by wages. They're going to not be given the overtime at the weekend. And that's why you have vile behavior at 8:30 in the morning, because it's like people are getting chased down the street with whips, and they're not. They're just looking at their clocks and going,
you've hit that. It's not so much the clocks, it's the money. The money.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that film, In Time, I think it was, In Time, where they were born with a clock in their arm? And if it
is like that though, Dave, it is. Because if you don't, you get penalised, and then your mortgage or your rent or your car payment or what, and you get squeezed like that constantly. And that's what has people on
That's it. You know, it's digits. It's digits. You know, there's always the drain on those digits, and you've got to keep getting more to keep afloat. And if you get to zero, you die. That is the system that we're in. And yes, people might.
So America is now trying to make out that they're trying to go for that didn't even exist. That's not even a reality. That's not how it happened.
Even though there's still legal slavery in America, with literally millions of people are in legal slavery right now. It's called the prison system. Okay, there are literally millions of people in the prison system that really haven't done anything wrong. You know, they've got a plant that grows wildly in nature, and they were smoking it, and that's put them in prison for 15 years, you know.
I will say a lot of people are not going to like me saying this, but I have been doing a little bit of research at the moment, and there is one celebrity at the moment who has shout out to the chat room if anyone gets this right. I'm not going to say the person's name, but they are a reality celebrity in America who has done 180 degrees. A few years ago, started a course in law, and is now working with the Trump administration, getting individuals out of prison that have no business being in there in the first place. They've already got more than 20 guys out of federal institutions, and they are working to get awareness for exactly what you just said. What are these guys in here for? They don't need to be in here. Get them out. Get them out. They don't need to be institutionalized like this. This is wrong. So shout out to anyone in the chat room that can put in the chat room who I'm talking about. But they are open about it. They're all over the place talking about it. They're on their own social media talking about it. And I'd advocate for anyone that is involved in that kind of life to do more of that. If you can turn your hand to something productive and proactive in fighting against that, because it's a real problem. There's hundreds of that, if not thousands, of people in institutions over there that should not be, they've got no business being in there, Dave.
It's not going to stop either, because over there, the prison corporations are in charge. And they've literally sued the states because they've got not enough prisoners. The states have entered into agreement with them to say they will provide them with a steady flow of prisoners, which is why you've got over policing in the black community, and racial profiling, and literally cops picking people up because their signal didn't go on fast enough or whatever, and then these people finding themselves in prison for 5 years. It's a machine. So I don't know how we got onto this anyway.
But you know what? It is poignant, because with the Eagle going over to the USA, they're now trying to make out that certain things didn't happen that happened, and everywhere internationally, what you have is a general sense of The things that they don't want us to know that happened, they'll just go, yeah, that didn't happen. We'll just erase that and we'll cover that over and we'll teach them that. Wait for another couple of generations to die off and give them a new narrative.
Exactly.
And that's where we are now. And that's why I find the Renaissance so interesting, because we have got a lot of people that are looking at historical events, but they don't actually want to acknowledge what really was going on in the Renaissance. And that's why I want to shine a light on it, because I want more people to pay attention to the alternative information that's out there about what really happened during the Renaissance.
And this is a good example. What this bloodline has done, what Esau's bloodline has done, is they kind of infiltrate a population. You know, a few people at a time. They turn up, hey, we're here, you know, we're good, friendly, and they sort of take jobs in and they integrate in the population. More of them come along until they have enough power, and then they overwhelm the population. They kill off the males and whatever, and they rape the women. And
sounds a bit like what goes on in the wild.
Yes, well, this is what happens. Yeah, they literally become that population, and then they rewrite history so that they were always there. Okay. Now this is what happened in Greece. In Greece, and you can see this in the architecture, and this is where most people can actually see this. In Greece, there's 3 levels of architecture: Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian. Okay. In the Old Testament, Greece was given, the area of Greece was given to somebody called Javan. Javan, well, there's no J in the original language, so his name would have been Iowan. Yeah, that correlates with Ionic, the first type of architecture. Ionic. Yeah, they were the original inhabitants of that area. Okay, then you got a group of Danites and Judites from the tribes of Israel who settled and lived alongside the the Ionians. So Greece was like several different nation states. And, these Dorians, so the Doric type of architecture, these Dorians. So yeah, so you got the Dorian, so you got the Doric type of column, and then you got the Macedonian, with Alexander the Great, the Edomites, who actually took over Greece. So the Corinthians, right? That was literally the white-skinned Edomites who took over Greece, and literally they rewrote history with the Renaissance. Basically, they rewrote history so that you didn't know about the dark-skinned people who lived there before.
Okay, now we're getting to the nitty-gritty.
You get some of the old pots and stuff that still survive, and you see literally there were black people there. You know, where do these black people come from? But they were the original people. So today you see the same process going on in America. Okay, a few Europeans went over there, hey, we're here, we're all friendly and everything. More came, and then more came, and then more came, until they had enough power and they exterminated the people who lived there, and they became the Americans. Yeah? And now they're in that process of rewriting history so that people don't know about the Indians.
Exactly.
So that's the process. And again, so what happened was the Edomites had control of the area of Europe and the Middle East with the Romans, essentially. Okay, wow. The Roman Empire had control of this whole area. Okay, and that lasted until 192, or was it 192 or 193 BC? AD, sorry. When an African guy called Septimius Severus took over the empire. Okay, and that was the fall of Rome. Rome pretty much ended there.
Right.
And so began a period they called the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages were, we get this impression that the Dark Ages was was, oh, nothing was happening. It was a period of barbarism and, you know, people killing each other and nothing was going on. No, it was literally 1,000 years of black rule in Europe. Yeah, there were, they call them the Moors, but it wasn't just Moors. It wasn't the Arabs, and it was the Moors were literally the Israelites who were conquered by the Arabs and had to take on their religion. In that period, you got these Moorish cathedrals and Moorish buildings and all this art and stuff, and lots and stuff that was going on. Okay, during that time, then like you know, 1,000 years later, 1492. Okay, and you'll keep hearing that date over and over and over again for various things. 1492. Most Americans will look at that and say, oh, that's when Columbus sailed and stuff, but lots and lots of things happened in that time. So the Inquisition was starting then.
Right.
Essentially, what happened around about 1492 was these Edomites started coming back from the mountains where they were banished. They started coming back in small numbers at first and integrating in society. And again, they had enough power and they took over Europe again. Okay, and essentially started rewriting the history, destroyed all the artwork or repainted it.
And you're talking about across Europe? Did they go anywhere else other than Europe to destroy artwork? Did they go into Russia? Did they go where?
That's where I was getting to. Russia was the last place to be taken over.
And was that because they just didn't get there until last, or did they hold off? Did they hold it off? I mean,
I think it was that they held off.
Okay.
You know, because essentially it was Rome at that time. It was like the Holy Roman Empire. That was when during the Dark Ages, yeah? And that was centered around you know, was it Constantinople? What was it? I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, it was around Turkey and that kind of area. That was the seat of the Holy Roman Empire. That was taken over by the Edomites again, and they spread out and took over the rest of Europe. They didn't go into Russia, and you can tell that because all the religious icons, so the depictions of the people from the Old Testament, were repainted or painted over. So throughout Europe, okay. So all the artwork was all either destroyed, had their noses broken off, so you couldn't tell, you know, what their features were like, and everything was repainted in the image of the Edomites who had now taken over. That process didn't get to Russia, because if you go into Google and type Russian icons, you'll find all the biblical characters all depicted as black people, including Saint George. Would you believe Saint?
Really?
Yes, Saint George, the dragon slayer, who apparently was a real actual figure. He's a black guy with an afro.
Hopefully what I'll do is I'll have some images up as we're talking to give you some optical representation of what Dave's trying to explain.
And it's still going on today, because there's I've got a couple of pictures of Jesuit priests repainting some of these icons that survived, but in public during this Renaissance, which has always been portrayed as this time of enlightenment and artwork and all that. But yes, it was, because all the artwork was being commissioned to replace the original artwork, to produce this image of what the world has always been like.
That's right. So they're basically just removing all of the evidence and overlaying it all with the narrative that they want to perpetuate to everybody.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And, you know, in this country, it's happened as well. In England, it was Thomas Cromwell. He was related to Oliver Cromwell, but Thomas Cromwell destroyed 97% of British artwork and documents and manuscripts and stuff like that. 97%. So when you look at the National Portrait Gallery, there's literally only a very, very, very
small fraction in there of original bits.
Actual original stuff.
Yeah.
Everything else in there has been repainted. What they call the process is called iconoclasm. It's the destruction of icons. Okay, and literally it's literally replacing it so that they can tell a different story that tells you that a certain bloodline never existed. And if you go back to the Old Testament, it says in Psalm 83, I think it is, it tells you the plan. It says there's a whole confederacy of nations got to fight this one bloodline of Jacob, and said, let's remove the memory of Jacob, of Israel, so that their name is no more remembered. I've just butchered the verse.
No, yeah, but I get where you're coming from. They're just basically doing a Men in Black, aren't they? And they're getting the pen and going, boop, done.
Exactly.
Finished.
And that was it. They literally took away all the documentary evidence of these people. What they wanted to do was actually remove their way of life, their faith, it wasn't even faith, it was their way of life. Okay.
You mentioned Turkey being around the area of where the seat of power was in that region.
During Dark Ages, yes.
I don't mean to go far left, but isn't that the same region that structure was found, where didn't half of the mountain fall away or something and reveal like more of the Ark or something? Wasn't that in Turkey or something? Have I got the wrong country altogether?
No,
Are we in the same region there?
That's where the Ark was found, in Turkey, northern Turkey.
That's crazy. Sorry, I know we're talking about something else, but it just struck me that, hold on, I think that's the same region that they were saying that was in.
And you know what? When I was over in Turkey, I spent time in Turkey. I realised that most of the places that I thought were in Greece, with all the classical mythology, the gods and goddesses and all this, it was actually in Turkey, not Greece.
Yeah.
So Turkey, that kind of area, has always been like a focal point of a lot of true history. So obviously all that area of what they call the Middle East doesn't mean anything anyway. Yeah, that's literally the focal point of.
Why do they call it the Middle East, by the way?
Just so that you don't realise that it's actually Africa. It's Northeast Africa. It's literally one sort of the tectonic Africa's on includes that area. The Suez Canal is completely separate now, and now we've got this bit, and they call that the Middle East, which then middle of what and east of what?
That's where I'm coming from.
Literally the center. It's literally the center of the earth. It's the middle of the earth. It's literally the central point of the land Earth. Okay. Which is why the Mediterranean is called the Mediterranean, Middle Earth, Mediterranean. Yeah, it's the Middle Earth. It kind of goes back to what you were saying about disclosure. That they have to see about what's going on. What I'm sort of researching about language. I've got something on the tip of my tongue. Looking at all this information about language. They have to tell us. They literally have to tell us what's going on, because it's part and parcel of making it happen. Yeah, there is something about us speaking, thinking, intending about a thing to bring it into manifestation. And it's like, when I'm sort of looking at all this information about language, there's something, it's literally on the tip of my tongue. It's like, I almost know how it works. But
Yeah.
as you say, it's they have to tell us in some way.
Hmm.
They can hide it and code it, just like you said. He said, it's not what you think. He was
Yeah.
telling you
Yeah.
because he has to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's also again from the language research. When you lie, your body is always trying to tell the truth.
Oh yeah. When you lie, if you purposely lie, your body will fight you. I feel the goodness inside you, the light inside you will constantly try and override that, and you will have to consciously fight to put the lie out. And that's why I think that those behavior specialists, they can pick up the idiosyncrasies in people's body language when they're lying. Their eyes go this way, their hands go that way, and I do feel that instinctively there is something inside that kind of tries to splurge out when you're lying.
It goes much deeper than that.
And it might be unconscious to you, and you may be doing things that inadvertently tell the truth, even though what's coming out of here is crap.
Well, this is what I'm saying. It goes way more deeper than that. Literally, if you reverse the speech of a Trump speech, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
he'll literally tell the truth in reverse. You'll hear gibberish, and every 15 to 20, 30 seconds or so, you'll hear, in a very kind of sing-song way, he'll tell the truth. He'll say a phrase that tells you the truth backwards.
Mm.
And
is that the game that we're playing, this duality, the duality of things that are down here in this realm? And I say down here, I don't know if it's up, down, round, or whatever, but in this reality that we're in, I feel that it is it's dark versus light, it's light versus dark, and I feel it is a game of two halves, and it's constantly there with things.
It is, but that's the sort of outside story, okay? Just like if you're watching, if you're crafting a story, okay, you've got the main character.
Because I mean, this is pretty much starting to feel like Alice in Wonderland. This reality here, Dave, is really starting to morph into something that's like, this is not real. Like, you can almost play with it sometimes. Well, and I don't want to sound cheeky saying that, but when it happens, it's like, that's not a coincidence. What are the chances? What are the chances? And then you start realizing that it's mathematically impossible for certain things to be happening.
This is exactly it, because I'm saying if you're following a story, if you're crafting a story, yeah, you have a main character who the reader is literally seeing the world through, basically. So main character, and you've got the storyline that the character goes through, okay? But along with the storyline, you've got the path of the character, yeah? So you literally got two stories going on. You've got this outer story, yeah, the story that the book's about, but wrapped up in that story, you've got the individual story of the character
and their path through that story. Yeah.
Right. And this is where we are, because we've got this outer story that's going on in the world. We've got many layers of that outer story, yeah. But at the same time, you've got your particular story through this game, because I came across there's a set of books that were taken out of the King James 1611 Bible, okay, 14 extra books, and they were taken out of all the other Bibles out, and the later versions of the King James, they were taken out. But those books give you, well, they were taken out because they had too much incriminating information in them, okay. Now, one of these books called Second Esdras, which is actually the fourth book of Ezra. So it's definitely meant to be there because Ezra's in there. But the fourth book of Ezra, is one of the books that were taken out. Okay. Now, when you find chapter 7 in Second Esdras, if you were just looking in, like in my version, my copy of the King James, Second Esdras chapter 7 only goes up to verse 70. Okay, and when you read it, it's gibberish. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. It has this vaguely Christian feel to it, and yeah, okay, makes no sense. So I was reading along one day with my second Esdras, and somebody was reading from their version, and all of a sudden, mine was saying something completely different. Mine was like gibberish, and he was saying something like that made sense. And then my version stopped, and he carried on. I was like, what's going on? So I started looking for these missing 70 verses. I found another version that had went up to chapter 105, or verse 105. And again, it was gibberish. And then later I found the full version, so it goes up to chapter 140. And I realized that what they did was take the last 70 chapters and then add them on to the previous 70 ones. So like chapter 36, for instance, has the first bit of verse 36. Verse 36 has the first couple of lines of verse 36, and then tacked onto the end of it is verse 140.
Can you imagine if Stephen King had done that to one of his books and sent it to the publishers and put it out there? People have gone, yeah, this is not really making any sense. Like, I'm just not going to bother reading it. And that's probably what they wanted people. It's there, it's all true, but I don't get it. So just leave it there on the table. It's true though. It's probably true. Just don't get it.
Over it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but when you read the entire thing, restored.
Yeah.
Literally, it tells you why we're here, what the purpose of life is, and what happens after you die.
Hidden like a little Easter egg.
Yes. And also,
can you divulge a little bit of what that says?
Yes, absolutely. And this is what I'm talking about. This path of the individual. Yeah. So the best way, and I've said this before, the best way of describing this is if you imagine you were in a room with 100 people, and you knew that 25 of those people were psychopaths. And you couldn't just look at any one of these people and know which one are the psychopaths.
No.
Clever, and they hide, they disguise themselves very well. So you might want to do a questionnaire, for instance. Okay, and in that questionnaire, you can't really go question 1. Are you
a psychopath? Of course.
Question 2, do you like killing small animals?
Yeah. They're just going to be like, on to me. Yeah.
You have to craft a questionnaire that has open-ended answers or open-ended questions that don't have a right or wrong answer.
Yes.
Is forced to be themselves because they don't know what you're looking for. Okay. Right. So let's take it to the level of the Most High. Okay. So imagine amongst the beings he's created, the celestial beings he's created, there's wickedness found.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you might do is create a realm where anything is possible. And this is where we are. Anything, literally any experience we want to have is possible.
Yeah.
We can make that experience happen. So you might create this realm where anything's possible, and then incarnate those beings as flesh and blood people, and remove their memory of who they are and what they are, and say, here you are, off you go. Now,
those that get through the other side won't be the psychopaths.
Well, no, this is the thing. It's an open-ended question. Okay, it's like, okay, there's no story, there's no purpose for you. You've got to find your own purpose. You've got to find your own life. Okay, and you can either act wickedly or you can act righteously, because everybody has been implanted with the 10 Commandments. We all know what's right and what's wrong.
This might sound like a random question. I wonder. I don't doubt, but I wonder if that, in my mind, I'm just spewing what's in my mind right now. But I wonder if in the Most High's process, he factored in the fact that the 25 psychopaths would end up controlling this realm that we're in. If that makes sense. And then it's like a deeper test. Then it's like, are you going to become under the guise of that, or are you going to be true to the fact that, yeah, anything could happen here? Are you going to choose the right path, or are you going to be sucked into the wrong one? And that's what I feel like we're in. I feel like I've been born into a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, and I didn't vouch for this, and I don't want to be one of the people that's had up at the end of this because I've bought into it. I want to be able to go, no, look, see me, I'm here. I'm not buying into this. Don't worry. I'm not, I'm surviving. Don't worry. But I'm trying not to do anything too horrendous because I see what it is. I see what this craziness is. I'm starting to see what it is.
Well, again, everyone's been implanted with the Ten Commandments. We all know when we're doing wrong. Even the psychopaths know that they're doing wrong. They just don't care. Yeah. So again, we're this individual path that we're on. Okay. We have the choice. We get dealt a set of cards. Yeah. Get dealt a hand of cards. It could be a really good hand. It could be a really shitty hand. But the thing to know about poker is that even if you've got a really shitty hand, the worst possible hand, you can still win.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So what the hand is might be dealt, with parents who are alcoholics, and you live in a rated place, blah blah blah, all the worst things, right? You can still come out on top from that situation.
Yeah.
Or you can follow the dark path. Okay. And I liken it to my son used to play a video game which was like a Star Wars Jedi game, yeah. So he starts off as a little kid with a lightsaber, and he goes through the game, and he has to make choices, whether he does this thing or does that thing, and all through the game he's making these choices, and depending on the choices he makes, he ends up either a Dark Lord or a Jedi. All right, and this is the game we're playing. We're here, we've been dealt a hand of cards, and we play those cards wickedly or righteously. And whichever we choose, we end up on that one or the other path. The great thing is that you can be on that dark path ignorantly so, because as you've just said, we're in a society of the wicked. Yeah, they're saying, okay, homosexuality is okay, pedophilia is okay. That's what they.
They're trying to normalize it, Dave. They're trying to normalize it. They're trying to get kids, completely desensitized to it.
To normalize wickedness. So if you go along with this society, literally you're on that dark path. And if you're a righteous person, you should know you're on this path and thinking, this isn't right. This isn't right. And you've always got the opportunity to go, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm jumping over there. And literally, Second Ezra says, basically, if you repent, and that's what that process is, going from leaving behind the evil and turning back to the laws of the Most High, if you do that repentance, okay, then come judgment, and this is the thing, everyone is literally at the end of time is going to be standing in front of the Most High and making an account of their lives. And not only just, you and the Most High watching your life and judging it, literally everyone that's ever lived is going to be watching your life from beginning to end. Right? So you have to stand there in your shame and, account for it. Now, according to Second Ezra, if you repent, if you've been doing, nasty shit, and then you go, you know what, this is wrong. And you wrong. And repent. Well, the clock starts there. Okay.
That, I feel like that is the first day of the rest of your life. Once you realise the wrongdoings of living the way, once I realised, let me say it from first hand, once I realised how I was living was wrong and how I was dealing with life was wrong. Because when I woke up, but I hadn't left the person that I was. I was through my stages, and I can only speak for myself. For me, awakening, my pursuit of truth has been an arduous journey. I absolutely respect other people that have not had such an arduous journey. I take my hat off to them. For those that woke up quickly, for those that it only took them a few weeks to clock A, B, and C was absolute cocky pop. For me, it was 2 to 3 years to just get where I am now, and I know that I'm still growing, and I don't pertain to be saying anything that's never been heard of by anyone else. I'm hoping a lot of people can relate to what I'm saying, and I feel like I'm growing now. But I do feel that I actually didn't start the first day of the rest of my life until I actually clocked I needed to do some work on me. I woke up and brought the most amount of baggage from my sleep life into my awake life with me. It was like I woke up, but all the baggage was still there. I still had to deal with all the emotional baggage and crap. Just because I realised I'd been lied to about where I lived and who I was, it didn't mean that I automatically hadn't done the things I'd done in my life. And then it was like a big hangover. And I feel that I've spoken to a few people, and they've said, I went through a bit of a stage of depression, actually. I got really down, and I didn't really know, I was under the mire a little bit. And I get that, because it's like a feeling of, I felt dirty. I felt really shitty. I felt like it was the worst hangover. Like, what have I done? What have I been doing? Why have I gone on like that? And even making content, that brought a different side out of me that I didn't even know was there. I didn't know about persecution for speaking publicly about things, and attacks on character, and slander, and defamation of character, and all of those kind of things that happen with speaking publicly. And I'm glad I have a dad that's, a public figure, and he was able to give me some pretty valid advice, because 3 months into making content, I was under a barrage of abuse, and I should probably just delete my channel and go, where's my teddy bear that's a ball? Have I got a ball that's a teddy bear? Because I'm going back to sleep. Wow, this is a lion's den. It felt like a gladiator arena, and I was in the slaughterhouse, and I felt extremely disillusioned. But you know what the deal breaker for me was? Human interaction. For me, the deal breaker was human interaction. It was meeting the likes of yourself, John Smith Globe, like people that I met at Speaker's Corner for the first time. And it just so happened to be Speaker's Corner for me. For other people, it may be a different experience. They may have gone to a meetup about something else. They may have looked into the financial institution and realised it was all. I've spoken to people that was the deal breaker for them. They, stumbled across a few things with the financial institution, and then realised, oh crap. And then now here they are at Flat Earth, and the globe being a lie, and horrendous other things that are going on. But I do feel like, with what you're saying about repenting sins, I do feel like I'm going through a phase right now of letting go and making right the things that I've done wrong, because inside I've got this feeling of exactly what you're saying. My mum always used to talk about the big man upstairs, and that's who she never used to say the word God ever. She always used to refer to him as the big man upstairs. And she used to say, well, Hen, I've got to do this and that, because when I get to see the big man upstairs, and that was her defense of why she would not do certain things that people would socially think she would do in given situations. And she would slow everything down and go, no. Why? Because that's watching. No, you're all right, thanks.
No, that's
on your bike.
That's exactly it, because the only thing I fear, absolute only thing I fear in this life is I'm at one point I'm gonna have to stand in front of my creator and make an account of this
and justify your life, what you've done in your life. And be held to account,
not only my actions but my inactions,
what you haven't done,
which is
what you haven't done,
and not anything. And it's my duty. It's my duty as somebody who's seen something to tell everybody else what I've seen.
If you see something, say something.
Yeah,
it is that simple. And socially, we're conditioned to not feel confident to do that because it's not actually socially accepted. And I feel that starts in the classroom. I feel that socially, again, we're not conditioned to feel accepted as long as we're questioning the things that we're taught as fact. And if we're doing so, then we are socially shunned or asked to justify how we've got the audacity to do such a horrendous thing. And like you said, with the languages and religion, I feel like, you know, this whole lie of the ball wasn't given to us by our creator. It was given to us by man. And I'm asking you, as someone who's researched scriptures and stuff, am I right in saying that no matter what house of religion you subscribe to, no matter how far back you go back in scriptures, that we're told not to worship false idols?
Number one commandment.
Right.
Thou
Okay.
shalt not have any other gods before me.
Right.
You know?
And put in I know I don't want to annoy a lot of people with this. Like I said, I don't use a lot of religious wording because I don't buy into it. I don't buy into going through something to get to the Most High. I don't believe in saying certain words because I feel like those words were given to us again by man. How much of what people regurgitate has been given to us by man? And you know, for me, that is really where I'm coming from with the Renaissance and being taught the lies, because we're given another narrative. And I feel the narrative we're living is the narrative that this set of generations has been given. Even at school, I remember I went to a Church of England school and we had Bibles, and I was not even 8 years old by the time we were taught about, you know, 1 BC and 2 BC and 3 BC. And for me as a kid, it was like 1985, like 1986. And I remember going, well, what was the number before 0? Why don't you just tell us that number? Why do you keep saying minus? And I, as a kid, I visualized me, like as a kid now, at that time, it was 1980 something. So my grandparents were born in like 1920. And I was thinking to myself, that would be crazy if I was born in like the year 87. If I was born in the year 87, then my grandparents would have been born in the year 29. But that means that my grandma, my grandma's mum, would have been born in negative. Like, because I kept on seeing minus, like -1, -2, -3, as in BC. And straight away as a kid, I clocked that every continent's given a different set of numbers, different calendars, different years that they're on. And even though I was taught to, at primary school, I'm sure everyone remembers when you opened up your book in primary school, you were told to put the date and the day in the corner and write classwork or homework in the corner. And it would be, you know, Tuesday, the 12th of, you know, March, 1986. And I thought, these dates are so relevant. You make us repeat these dates, years. We're always writing years down all the time. But how accurate is that year? Is it actually 2018? Because once upon a time, they were walking around going, right, so write 0. The baby was born in year 0. Right, okay, so, and mother was born in what? -42. Right, okay, yeah, right, lovely. They weren't walking around in those years going, so yeah, it's like 400 years and before Jesus is going to be born. That's what year it is. Just write that in the page. Right, 400 years before Jesus was born. That's the year we're in. No, that's not what was going on. And the more people I talk to, they go, oh yeah, well the Gregorian and the Mayan and it's all these different kind of, and it's like, well no, what? How long has human civilization been able to talk? And were we ever Neanderthals? What was a caveman? Oh, crikey. And it's just because of the few lies I've discovered, I've realised, oh, crap. It's all a song and dance, isn't it?
Yep.
It's all one narrative or another, and take your pick. It's like pick and mix at Woolworths. What do you want it to be? Do you want to be a Neanderthal back in the day, or do you want to be this? There's something that's going to reset it to 0, and then, like you said, they just wipe over everything else and go, no, that's where it started, and there's the narrative, and there's a book, and read it. And that's what happened with those people. And one day will be the book of BC, and they'll write a narrative about this, and they'll give it to the new people, whoever they are.
Funny, you pulled out a date out of your subconscious. You should actually note that date and then see what actually happened on that date for you.
Really?
Because no, you were just talking and you pulled out a specific date. You said on the corner of your exercise book, you put a date, like I think you said 18th of March 1987. You might want to have a look why you pulled that out of your subconscious.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, but anyway.
That's really.
But yeah, anyway.
Mad.
the BC AD thing, okay, when you think about it, as you say, back in the BC times, they weren't saying, oh yeah, this is 600 years till that day. No, right?
They knew the year it was, or they knew the time that they were in at the time.
Yes.
Or not. Yeah.
I think the Jewish calendar, you know, this is the year 575. Well, I think it's 58 something now, 59 September, but 5,000, you know, 977. So yeah, that's the way that. Yeah. But the BC AD thing was concocted maybe 100 years after, you know, 0 or 1 AD. Yeah. So it was like retroactively applied. And why was it retroactively applied to that particular time? Well, and this is my view. This is not, you know, I haven't got really anything to totally back it up. But there's a prophecy in Daniel, which is all about, you know, the building of the second temple, and it's talking about things in a number of weeks. So 70 weeks, and then there's another 7 weeks, and blah blah blah. Right now, there's a narrative that says, oh, he doesn't mean weeks as in weeks of days. He means weeks of years. So when you add up things in weeks of years, it added up to something like 490 years. So they actually created the you know, BC AD sort of, you know, crossover, so it matched up with that prophecy. So they could say, oh, there, see. So
they're just cooking the books. They just really cooked the books and did the numbers to work in their favor. That makes perfect sense.
And the JC narrative, it gives a prophecy of Jerusalem being sort of destroyed, and but it was written something like 100 years after the fact, so it's not really a prophecy, really, because it was written 100 years after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
So yeah, that's why you've got this AD BC thing. Yeah, it's bullshit. It's just a Christian support their doctrine,
their narrative.
Essentially.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
And so, that's what history is all about. And that's what again, 1492, then the Renaissance period. That's where we get the ball Earth. Yeah, that's where we get the English language. The English language, modern English, was created around about 1500.
I don't like the ish at the bit of English as well. It's like English-ish. It's kind of ish it.
Well, actually, British, okay, is actually a Paleo-Hebrew word. It means man of the covenant, right? English is essentially angel man, fallen angel man. Yeah. So the English language isn't English; it's Anglish, angel-ish.
And the same as Scottish, Irish, ish.
Well, no, because ish in Paleo-Hebrew just means man. Aish means man. Now, the way we got Saxons, again, you know that process I was telling you about, the original people, and then you got another people coming over the top, and right. So you had the Saxons, who were black and brown people, and then you got the Anglo-Saxons. Now, Saxon is actually the words sons of Isaac. Okay.
And does the word Sassenachs come from the Anglo and the Saxons put together?
Sassenach, yes. It's the Sassenachs were the invaders.
Yeah.
And I'll probably get to them in a minute, but you've got the Saxons, the sons of Isaac. Now I said the Isaac sons, Esau and Jacob. Yeah. Sons of Isaac, and then you've got the angelic sons of Isaac, the Anglo-Saxons, angelic sons of Isaac. So in this case, the word angelic doesn't mean nicey, fluttery, you know. No, it's the fallen angels, the fallen angel seed. Yeah,
Right.
which was so that's why if I've got a book called The Origins of the Anglo-Saxon, and there's a chapter, I think it's chapter 5, that's called Our Darker Forefathers. And in that book, it tells you the Welsh were very black people. Hertfordshire, Herefordshire, and some other counties were primarily black and brown people. Yeah, and
What an eye opener.
And if a place in England is called Brun something, yeah, like Brunswick. Brunswick means brown place. Yeah, just anywhere that's got the word moor in it. So, you know, Dartmoor. You know, it's telling you that's where the Moors or the black people were. Wow. Anywhere that's called Wend, yeah. So Wendlesbury, Windsor. Again, the Wends were very dark people. It's again telling you, and it says that in this book, The Origins of the Anglo-Saxon Race. Okay, right. And it's literally telling you that the Anglo-Saxons overtook the Saxons. And that book was written from the perspective of the Anglo-Saxons. And, you know, the Anglo-Saxons had a profound effect on our English, so-called English language. Okay. So, for instance, the word black actually means white. Yes.
How so?
Okay. Right. So the word black comes from two words in Anglo-Saxon, which is the word B-L-A-C and B-L-A-E-C. Okay, and those words mean pale, white, shining, bright, leprous. Okay, because leprosy means skin turning white. And a few other, but if you think about it, the words bleach comes from the same word, B-L-A-C, B-L-E-A-E-C.
Yeah, because it's not called weech, is it?
Bleach, blanche. Yeah. If you go to French, blanco or blanc is white. Blanco, Italian, is white. Bianco, no, that's Spanish. Bianco in Italian is white. Yeah, it all comes from the same root. Yeah, the word black actually means white, and because leprosy came with a lot of dark, negative imagery. That's why the dark, negative imagery is applied to the word black. Wow. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, again, this isn't a color thing.
No,
you know,
sounds, like you said, it's not a race thing. It's a bloodline and where you are in the bigger scheme of things thing. Right. Not a because we're you know, a lot of us are mixed up now. You know, again, I've got some of these traits as well, and you know, so and you've got some of my traits in you. You've got the very black hair, yeah. Your nose. I got that from my father. Got that from my old dad. He's got horse hair. Swears.
Well, there you go. Because again, the Scottish people were black people.
And for anyone who's seen my dad, he's got a right honker on him. His nose takes up 3/4 of his face.
Right. Well,
and he's not like got a sticky outy pointy nose. He's got like the mess.
Well,
sorry, Dad. Love you.
did you see Braveheart?
Yes.
Right. In the film Braveheart, there's a scene with the king talking about how he's going to get rid of the Scots. Okay. Yeah.
I've got an ancestor that fought with Robert the Bruce.
Oh, Robert the Bruce.
Or whatever.
Robert the Bruce was a black guy.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, whatever you want to call him, white, black, Cuban, or Asian. I've got. We did a bit of research, and it seems that one of my ancestors, one of the Glens, was right up there with him. So he was great. And there's another
the
language
scene-
there that's another Celtic. Like, what's good with the Celtic language? Because I hear a lot of people talking about Tartaria or whatever it is. But what I would like to know is the tartan kilts are still there. But when you look back into some of the imagery of like the older civilization, I see like printed, not tartan, but it's like everyone used to identify themselves by the colors that were stitched onto their. It doesn't really matter where you go. You could go to Peru, you could go to Africa, you could go to anywhere. And like the further back you go, the more defined their coloring got, or they had specific patterns. And I feel that that's no different from the tartans that the Scottish people have and the Celts use. Because it's not just Scottish people that use tartans, Celts in general do, don't they?
Well, again, the thing about this country in particular, King James was was a black guy. He was a Hebrew Israelite of the royal line of David.
I'll tell you what, my school never taught me that, Dave. They didn't tell me that. No. How many of you in the chat room got taught that? Just for interest. I'd be amazed if even one person was taught that. And if you are, I want to know where you were taught that. Mad.
So King James's grandson, King Charles II, was known as the Black Boy when he was young because he was so dark.
Yes, I remember you saying this. Yeah, that's what he was known as. Yeah.
Right. So, well, again, King James reunited all the tribes of Israel, right, or the at least Judah mostly, because I believe the Welsh were the northern kingdom. They descended from King Omri, but that's a long story. But you got all these tribes of Israel, mostly Judah, of the Zara line, all scattered across Ireland, Wales, parts of England and Scotland, and King James reunited all those clans, all those tribes, into the United Kingdom. He also included France. France was also part of the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Okay? And in France, you had the Gauls, who were from, Galilee. Again, the historians say they like to mix up and rechange stuff. So there's a mixing where they kind of try to change over from Iberians to Celts. There's a midway point where they call them the Celt-Iberians. Okay, but Iberians, well, that came from the fact that these people called themselves the Iber. Okay, they came from Israel, that area. Okay. They were Israelites. They called themselves the Iber after their forefather Eber. It's where the word Hebrew comes from. Okay, so they called themselves the Iber. And I'm going to jump across to a slightly different topic. In Africa, you've got the Ibu. Same people, same word, just pronounced differently.
Yeah.
You've also got Ewe. Okay. We pronounce it EWE, but it's because the English language or the German language can't pronounce the words properly. But it's Ivri, which is the same as Ibu and Iba. It's the same people, different ways of pronouncing the same word. So the Iba left Israelish area and settled in a place they called the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal. Okay. So when they were chased out of this is way before the Spanish Inquisition, they were chased out of that area, and they founded another country they called Hibernia, again after themselves, which is Ireland. Yeah. The Irish are the Iber. Yeah. The Iberish. Yeah. Iberish means Hebrew man. Okay, Ireland means land, or Hibernia means land of the Hebrews.
See, when you hear it like that, it all starts making sense. And I'm for Occam's razor. Let's remove the variables, because normally the simplest answer is probably going to be the most accurate, right?
Right, and so Irish comes from Iberish. Okay, Now I remember that you don't remember, but when you translate from Paleo-Hebrew to Germanic languages, the B, V, and W are mixed up because the Germanic tongue can't pronounce V's. I think it's V's, or is it the other way around? I can't remember which way around it is. They can't pronounce a particular, V or W. I can't remember which way around it is. So VBs and W's get mixed up. So Iberish became Irish, Irish. Okay, so that's where you got Irish from.
Wow.
So what happened was some people from Ireland moved on and founded another country, and the only word that kind of still remains is Hebrides. Iberian, Hibernia, Hebrides. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Scots were originally Irish people who moved over. There was other layers of other Scots. Again, some came directly from, and they came with a Hebrew queen called Scotia, and that's where you got Scotland from. So Scotland's very interesting because originally you had, again, they were all black people, but then you got the Germanics starting to come in from the south. And that's why you've got the Lowland Scots and the Highland Scots. The Highlands retained the blackness, but the Lowland Scots ended up mixing. So you got Douglas, the Douglas family. Yeah, Douglas means Doug, or comes from dub, which means black. Yeah. So you got the Black Douglas. Okay. Then you got the Red Douglas.
Yes.
Okay. So the Red Douglas were the part of the Douglas family that mixed with we call them white people, but they're red people. Okay. And that's why you got Red Douglas, who was Red Angus. Okay.
Right.
And essentially the mix ended up, they ended up actually taking over. When Cromwell took over, he basically attacked Scotland and eventually took them over. They transported the Scottish mainly to the Caribbean, and the Scots now are essentially mostly Germanic English people who essentially again, through this process of raping the women who lived up there, the offspring became more Germanic, and the darker ones got transported, the lighter ones stayed, and so on. 300 years later, you've got all white people.
The dilution that's happened. Yeah.
Same happened in Ireland. Same happened in Ireland. The original Irish are in the Caribbean. Yeah. Cromwell couldn't pay his troops, so what he did was he gave his troops he gave these troops land in Ireland, and that land came with titles.
Wow.
So the women that were left in Ireland that didn't get transported, the nobleman, the new nobleman, would rape them. Again, I was going to mention about Braveheart.
Yes.
Said about prima nocta.
Okay.
If we can't get them out, we'll breed them out.
Yeah, it's true.
Talking about white people, he was talking about breeding out the black people.
Yeah, found even just researching into my own family name that it all gets really very, very muddy prior to 1900. I can't really get any first-hand information since my grandparents died, and the earliest of my eldest grandparents was born in 1914. And since they passed away, I now don't have any direct communication with them, so I haven't got any first-hand information. And everything I've looked into prior to 1900, it's just become incredibly murky. I can't decipher what's legitimate from what's cooked books. I can't put it any other. I mean, I've had my family traced all the way back to 1746, and I'll tell you this: my uncle did amazing work doing that, but looks a bit sketchy prior to 1909. I mean, I wouldn't want to walk into a court and say, yeah, provide that as evidence. Everything from 1900 onwards looks pretty legit. It looks pretty much legit. Who was who married who, where they were, what they were doing. But it's almost like they changed the operating systems at one point. And it was like overnight, they just pressed the button and went, yeah, so we're just going to do everything differently now. And any arguments, even if there is, shoot them between the eyes. Right, we're going. Boom, it's done.
I can tell you exactly when that was done, because as I said, you got King Charles, who was King Charles II, who's the last of the real bloodline.
Right.
And then you got William of Orange.
Now we're getting somewhere, because my mum used to talk about this guy.
Yeah. So basically, William of Orange came from Holland, I think it was, and essentially he brought in the Germanic bloodline that we've got now, because we've got Germans on the throne right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Saxe-Coburg Battenberg family, you know. So we've got an illegitimate bloodline that literally only has a claim to and relation. It's just, you know, just by marriage. When came in, well, I've got a book, an old book from the 1700s. Yeah, it's called the Memoirs of the Secret Services of John Mackey. Yeah, I've got a copy on my website.
Wow.
I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, John Mackey was a spy for William of Orange. Okay, his job was to go through all the noblemen of the British Isles and describe them in detail. So literally, they knew who to get rid of.
Right.
Okay. So in this book, he literally goes to all the noblemen and says, yes, this is Duke of Northumberland. He's a tall, dark man and he describes him in detail. Most of the people he describes are black people. He'll say, you know, Duke of Bedford, a tall black man, not as dark as the king, you know.
Wow.
You know, something like that. And it literally lays out that even up until the 1700s, there were lots of black people and lots of them in positions of nobility. I've also got a book called, it's a long title and I've forgotten it. It's, you know, Voyages Around the Scottish Islands or something like that, by somebody called Martin Gent. And I'll give you the full SP later on. But this guy took a voyage around all the little islands around Scotland, like the Isle of Skye, the Isle of Iona, Isle of all those little islands, and described all the people were there. And again, all those people in those islands of Scotland were black people. There's also another book around the same time, a voyage around the islands of Scotland with Sir Thomas. No, I've forgotten the name. I think it was from Thomas Boswell, and it was with somebody famous, and I can't remember who that famous person was. But anyway, another book, and the person who was with this famous person, and I wish I could remember his name. He had a manservant, and again, a very famous manservant, an African manservant. Yeah. And they describe going to these islands of Scotland and not being able to distinguish the Scots from this manservant.
So what does that, I mean, that pretty much tells you everything you need to know then about the people that were there if they can't distinguish them. Right.
Now, this manservant is also interesting because he was featured on a BBC programme just recently. Okay, his name was Frank. Oh, my memory's going.
You can't help it. It's all good. It's all good.
Anyway, so this guy, I've got a clip and I use it in one of my videos. So there's a picture of this guy, a portrait of this guy as this manservant, and Francis Barber, his name was Francis Barber. Okay, so in this BBC TV program. This white guy is standing in front of the portrait and he's saying, Francis had a son called Edward. Edward had a son called Noah, and Noah had a son called Enoch, and Enoch had a son called Cedric, and that's me. And this white guy, you wouldn't know any different, okay, was descended from like 5 generations away from Francis Barber, this black manservant. Right? Now, a lot of English, so-called English people are actually black people when they don't know it, because the definition of a Negro is if you've got 1 drop of Negro blood in you, if you've got any Negro ancestors, then you're a Negro.
I get what you're saying in the sense where it's almost like it it's like Vimto, right? If you've got a glass of water, it's just a glass of water. Even if you put 1 drop of Vimto in it, it's now not just a glass of water anymore, is it? And it's like the Vimto is the cordial that's being diluted. I kind of get that as an analogy. And so you can't be a glass of water if you've got Vimto in you.
If you've got like,
does that make sense? It's like you can't be a glass of water if you've got Vimto in you. And if there is even that trace bit, then you can't class yourself as a glass of water anymore. I get it. I fully get it. It might not be physically apparent, but if you reverse engineer things, you can't get away from the DNA, or can you?
Well, you know, looking
because
at
23andMe and all that. Yeah, go on. Look at
you right now. Yeah. Well, like you've got the black hair. Okay. You've got I don't know what colour your eyes are. Brown.
Yeah, pretty much dark brown. Yeah.
Dark brown eyes. Yeah. You've got slightly fuller lips than most white people. Your nose is just slightly wider than most white people. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you, yeah. A lot of so-called English people are Negroes.
I was having this conversation with Janine the other day. She was saying the same thing. Because throughout my life, people have always said to me, "Where are you from?" And I'll tell people where I'm from. And they'll go, "No. But where are you actually from?" And the amount of countries that people have come out with is like insane. And Dolly Daydream, who I speak to a lot, she's had a lot of people through life going, "Are you mixed race? Like, are you like?" And she's like, "No, both my parents are white." Like, and they're like, the nose, the lips, like.
Dolly actually looks a bit like my daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You see, and like Dolly says, like she's white, she's English, and we're both going. It's funny that why do people look at us and think we're something we're not when we're taught we're that and we're not that, and
now you can understand the idea of collateral damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you saw? I mean, do you remember Harry Potter?
I didn't watch any of the movies. My nephews did though. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, Harry Potter, you've got these this family, the Malfoys, yeah, the villains. They were, blonde hair, blue eyed, Aryan types, yeah, and they were superior to everyone else, and they would call Harry Potter and anybody who wasn't like them mudbloods, dirty blood, yeah, not pure blood.
Nice, is it? Mudbloods. I've not heard of that before. Sorry to all the Harry Potter watchers. I'm like late to the party with that one.
But this is showing the this thing about, because again, it's all about bloodline.
Yeah.
And that's why the royal families, yeah, again, it's not the real royal family, but it's the royal families. Never marry outside their bloodline. A black woman is really a black woman. She's part of their bloodline. So they never marry outside the bloodline. So anyone who's a mudblood, a dirty blood, not pure, and they don't care about. You can be as white and blonde hair and blue eyed. If you've got a drop of Negro in you anywhere, going back doesn't matter. If you're not part of their bloodline, and they know who's part of their bloodline and who's not. And if you're not, then they don't care about you. They don't care if you're slavery.
You're insignificant in the bigger scheme of things. Yeah. You're surplus to requirement in the long run. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people walking around thinking themselves quite superior because they've linked themselves with this bloodline, but this bloodline doesn't give a toss about them, and they'll get rid of them as soon as as quickly as they'll get rid of black people.
What's your take on what's good with the royal family at the moment with the new royal baby, Meghan and Harry? What's your take on this?
I have no take. I have no regard for them at all. As I said, their bloodline. They say they have the right to rule because they have the blood of the gods.
Mm.
Which gods are they talking about?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
talking about the fallen angels.
There's a lot of controversy with Harry in that because there's people that think that he's not even Charles's son.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter because they're mixing bloodlines. It's the same. The Spencer family. Or whoever that guy is supposed to be.
So what do you think the big deal is with? Do you reckon her family, Meghan's family, is connected to them back there somehow?
Of course.
Yeah.
All are. And
yeah.
and the family relationship that we see on the outside isn't what's really going on. Yeah. They don't have the same concept of, if you have a child, it's like you're bonded to that child. You'll put your life in front of theirs. You'll step out in traffic for them. We're not talking about the same type of people. We're talking about people who sacrifice their firstborn. We're talking about people who have. The Queen had was it a cousin or is it a?
She had one in a mental hospital, didn't she?
Oh yes, and this woman died in poverty and in degradation because she had no regard for her whatsoever.
We're not given the same life that they're allowed to lead. We're just minions in the bigger scheme of things, aren't we?
Exactly.
It's mind-bending.
The Old Testament says the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. And the way I see this, I don't know if you've ever seen this film called, I like using films because you've seen them and they can relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a film called It's a Wonderful Life. They roll it out every Christmas. It's an old black and white film with Jimmy Stewart in it. Okay, and what happens is Jimmy Stewart's in this idyllic little town. Okay, it's this perfect little everyone knows each other, happy little town. It's got a bad guy in it and everything, but Jimmy Stewart wants to leave. He wants to get out into the world and see the world and everything, but he's like stuck in this town. And at one point he decides, life's not worth living, and he goes to this bridge and tries to commit suicide. And he gets saved by an angel. Okay, and this angel gives him an amazing gift, and that is to see the world as if he was never born in it. So then he goes back into town, and now the town's this dirty, dingy, grimy place. It's hard and evil, and everyone's nasty, and not. His own mother is this nasty, evil old hag. Bitter, twisted woman, and everything. So all these friends are these like nasty versions of themselves, and he ends up getting into trouble, and he runs back to the bridge, and he's begging the Most High to put things back like they were. And this is where we are, okay? Because the Israelites are meant to be the Most High's priesthood on earth. They're the representatives of the Most High on earth to enforce essentially the Ten Commandments, make sure that the world runs harmoniously. They're not rulers as we've got now. We've got rulers, we haven't got leaders. The difference is, and there's an image, there's a meme I really like. It's like on the top there's a picture of a big stone block on rollers, and a whole load of people pulling these rollers. So on top of the block is this throne, and somebody pointing to the picture is the same block on rollers and the same people that the leaders have there. He's out front pulling, the first one pulling. Yeah, that's the difference. We've got rulers at the moment. Yes, people on our backs telling us which way we've got to go, rather than a ruler who, you know, is the first one to actually go out and do stuff. Like if our rulers, you know, sort of declare war on somebody, they'll say, "Send your children off."
We need them. Pack them off,
And
and
their
we'll
children
get them on
stay
the front
back.
line.
If they declare war, at this point, you know, our rulers declare war, they'll send their kids off. Go send your kids off. You know, it's all patriotic. But the rulers of the kings of the past, if they declared war, they would be out leading the charge. Yeah, they'll be the ones in the front line going, "Let's go, charge!" Different.
Entirely different. It's a different situation altogether. You know, we're going to war. We need your kids.
Yes.
And then you look at the international child trafficking that's going on, and people seem to think that's a conspiracy. The human trafficking that's going on with humans all over the place. Look how long we've been dealing with Live Aid for. Look how long we've been dealing with all of these things for. And for what? All back in the day in the 80s, I believed it. I believed children need comic relief and all of that. And you look at what they're really doing, and I just think we're just funding more evil.
I used to wonder why it was that, you know, when you saw Live Aid, you saw these little babies with big distended bellies running around, and they said, "Oh, that's because they're starving." I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. You know, when you starve, you kind of go thin, and so it turns out they weren't really starving before the Live Aid. You know, the aid started going over. It was literally the rice that they were giving these children was making their belly swell up. Yeah, yes, yeah. They couldn't. Rice is poisonous to us. Yeah, it's just, you know, we've just been so weakened that we don't respond to rice anymore. But you know, when you give rice to somebody who's healthy, you know, their body reacts.
I have actually taken time to look back at some of the clips from the early 80s that we were shown. And when I look back with new eyes now at the videos and that they used to do, it's embarrassing to watch, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
It's actually embarrassing to watch it. It's cringe.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah, so we've been propagandized for our entire lives.
Majorly duped. And what's worse is we're socially, you know, had a go at for talking about it in public, which is really what spurs me on to talk more about it in public. It's like, until you stop shutting us up, gonna keep going. Just gonna keep going.
I was saying about death. I've got, you know, I don't really care about if they kill me, you know, because again, who knows? I can be on my little unicycle thing, fall over and kill myself right there. You know, I don't. Yeah. Doesn't matter. So
you're ready for any eventuality, and I think we all know that anything can happen. Anything can happen, and I'm not saying that in a negative or depressing way. I'm saying, like, the amount of family that I've lost and not appreciated the time that they were here, and things that happen. I think we all take the time that we're here for granted, even though we like to think that we don't. I, for one, I do, and I feel like it's about engaging and making every day count and being in the now and living in the happenstance of things instead of being 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks from now. It's not changing the now, the future, the past. And I feel like it is, in a sense, a present, being in the present.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's like, it is, you know, the presence of being here in the now. And taking for myself what I can take as a self-evident truth of my reality right now, instead of thinking about the what ifs of what I could have done yesterday and what I can do tomorrow. I feel that it is important to just be in the now, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and I don't mean wake up. I mean, waking up tomorrow is not a given, and I've taken too many things in life as a given in the past. I've allowed members of my family to live and breathe their whole life and pass away without even having a conversation with them about this. That doesn't happen anymore. I've had conversations with members of my family that are not pleased with what I've spoken about, in fact, rather displeased. And to them, I apologise. I'm sorry, I'm not talking about things that please you. But to me, that's my own case study of how this is not socially accepted. So until my family start accepting what I'm talking about, I'm going to know there's work to be done. Because if they're not accepting it, how goodness are the masses going to accept it? And there's a lot of difficult pills to swallow, Dave. There's a lot that are still pretty stuck in my throat to a certain aspect, and I'm still trying to swallow past them. And it's arduous hearing some of the things. I mean, even just what we've spoken about today. A couple of years ago, I took all of that as a given, just all of it. Didn't think to slow down and question any of it. I thought, well, what's the chances that will be in a lie? It's not going to be a lie, is it? Why would they lie to us about that? I mean, my mum's been taught about the Renaissance. My dad's been taught. All of the generations before me have been taught about the Renaissance. All of them, all got the same narrative. Like we've been taught men went to the moon. Like we've been taught all of that stuff. And it's like I said, it feels like baklava to me. Feels like, 100 layers you peel back. You think, how many more layers can there be? Oh God, there's another 100. And you pick up 2 and you realize there's 100 in between. And you go, it's just immense. It's almost never ending. But as long as you stay on a path of, of truth and keep pursuing it, you will keep coming across new things. And I feel like that's what's born this conversation. Me on my pursuit of truth, you having been on your pursuit of truth, and me wanting to touch base and find out what you've found out, so that I can correlate what I've found out, and together we all grow. And I'm hoping the chat room's resonated with this as well. I hope that we've talked about a few points that other people have thought about looking into or have looked into and want to look into more. I think there's so many things that we could talk about.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, you're talking about discovery. In my very first Flat Earth video, I put in a thing about the maps. I put a little a video about how the maps are wrong, and what if we put the north on the bottom, yeah, and so the map was upside down. Okay, yeah. I since found out that the first maps were always south on top.
Yeah,
that's the way they always were. And it was again the Europeans around about the Renaissance period that literally flipped the map upside down, because you can see the evidence of it in Egypt, because Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt is in the north, right? So that ancient place, ways that is where the maps came out of. From the Arabs essentially, and yeah, so yeah, that was another discovery. It's like, so that video I played there was more truth to it than I thought in the first place.
Yeah, and it's things like that for me, they're like little gems, things that you pick up along the way when you weren't looking into that in the first place, but it's come up on the pursuit of truth for something else. And that's what I find so energizing about researching things and really slowing down and looking into subjects. Is that I get so much from them, and there's so many things more I want to talk to you about. There's so much more we can talk about with this subject as well. So for the viewers that are watching this, I'm pleased to tell you that I'm going to delve a little bit more with this subject with Dave. I'm going to try and spread it out in a 3 or 4 parter, so that we can get through it all, because I feel like it's pretty extensive, and I know everyone's limited with their time, and I don't want someone to start watching this and then not finish watching it. I'm going to try and do it in sections. So this will be one of possibly 3 or 4. And we'll go further into religion, and I'm definitely going to ask Dave about common law and lineage, and predominantly languages as well. I really want to go as far back as we can. It is all connecting. That's why this is so massively important. It's actually imperative that people clue themselves up and inform themselves, and don't take our word for it. Don't just say, oh well, Dave said it, so that must be it then. Go and look for yourself. All of this is checkable and verifiable. This is not just spewing out Dave's head and go, oh, so I had a coffee one morning, I had this great idea. There was this thing called Paleo-Hebrew, and it's apparently pictorial form, and this is not fictional stuff that Dave's talking about. This is all legit. If you all take the time to look at it for yourself, you'll see that for yourself. So if you will, Dave, if you'll come back again, and we'll delve further into these bits and pieces, because as much content as you've done with other channels, I'm starting to realize there's a few of us. Even Jason said to me, he gave me a recommendation for a channel yesterday, and he was convinced I was already subscribed, and I screen shared and showed him. I've never even heard of that channel, didn't know it existed, and never seen any content from it, and his mind was warped. And I won't say what that channel is because I do feel a bit embarrassed. In hindsight, probably should have known that channel, but didn't. So hey ho, silver in a way. A lot of us are making assumptions and assuming that we're all subscribed to the same channels and we're all watching the same content. And there may be viewers of my content that are new to the party that they've seen your content, Dave, but haven't seen you having discussions on other channels where you've gone into depth about things. And I feel like the more bodies of work that we can all produce, the more content we can all produce, far more difficult for them to remove it off the internet. Yes, we can all mirror videos. That's brilliant. But that's just mirroring work that's already been done. Sure. That's not putting more work into the system and flooding the system. And yeah, as far as, you know, the subjects that I'm involved in, this is, like you said, it's all connected. Yes, in my eyes, it's part of the global lie that we're all taught. The globe lie is a lie, and everything that encompasses in it, the globalization, the one world government, all of it, they're all channeling toward an objective. And like you said, we're pretty much collateral damage in all of that. And then taught a narrative and then scolded if we question what we've been taught as fact. And that's not a reality I want to live in. I want to be able to break free of those chains of factual indoctrination as far as they're concerned, and go against it and find out what the actual truth is. Because I know we've been given one story and another story, and somewhere in the middle, we'll be able to find something that's more legitimate than what we've been taught. So Dave, I want to thank you for everything that you've talked about today and spending this time with me. And I'm really looking forward to the next one. And chat room, thank you so much for riding along with us. Put any comments that you have or any questions in the comments section, and I will endeavour to try and get them answered for you. And as I said, I hope this has been as useful for you as it has been for me. So until next time, this has been The Pursuit of Truth with allegedly Dave and myself. Have a good day, have a good evening, have a good afternoon, no matter where you are.